This is a video for discussion 1 on funds of knowledge. I am Mel Booth. According to the Global Family Research Project and their online article, Funds of Knowledge applies the knowledge and skills of daily household routines to create meaningful and innovative approaches to classroom teaching and learning. I currently teach high school special education reading fluency classes. One content standard I can apply in my classroom is found in the College and Career Anchor Standards for Reading for grades 9 through 10. My students are in my class because they have difficulties in reading related to specific learning disabilities, health impairments, spectrum disorders, or any of the other 13 disability classifications that qualify them for IEPs. My job is to help students improve their reading speed and comprehension so they can better understand the content of the text. At the high school level, it is very important that we focus on engaging students and understanding text because they are getting prepared to enter either college, trade school, or the workforce. My students need to be able to read and understand text no matter what they plan to do post-high school graduation. I want them to be able to read and understand college texts, instructional manuals, and any other reading materials necessary to do well in their post-high school endeavors. So therefore, I plan to focus the content standard that allows them to understand the key ideas and details for both literature and informational texts. The standards I plan to focus on for literature require students to be able to determine a theme or central idea of a text and analyze in detail its development over the course of the text, including how it emerges and is shaped and refined by specific details, and provide an objective summary of the text. And the standard I plan to use to focus on informational text requires a student to be able to determine a central idea of a text and analyze its development over the course of the text, including how it emerges and is shaped and refined by specific details, and provide an objective summary of the text. And these are in the California Common Core standards. As a teacher, I can engage learners' funds of knowledge by taking the time to get to know my students and their families and using the knowledge of their everyday activities within their environments to design curriculum that centers their experiences and interests. My school district demographics are represented by mostly white, working class to upper middle class families. However, we do have a large minority of both Latin American students and Native American students, and a small minority of African American students, and also a small but growing minority of students who identify as LGBTQ+. We also have many students whose families' incomes fall below the federal poverty level. To engage my students' funds of knowledge, it is important for me to get to know all of my students by engaging in lessons and conversations that allow discussion of their lives outside of school. I plan to spend more time developing and incorporating reading comprehension lessons that center their individual voices, either through written assignments or oral discussions. I have been acquiring books for my classroom library that center voices of a large variety of minorities and other marginalized individuals, so students have access to books during silent reading that can function as mirrors, windows, and sliding doors during their individual silent reading time. According to Lester L. Laminack and Katie Kelly in Reading to Make a Difference, using literature to help students speak freely, think deeply, and take action, we believe that children's literature offers a shared experience for all students in a classroom community to consider how ways of being can be a mirror, a window, and ultimately a sliding glass door connecting their lives with the lives of others as they move between worlds. When children see themselves and see others, they can see similarities as well as differences and move beyond a one-dimensional view of themselves and the world. Allowing students access to reading material that functions as a mirror lets them see themselves and other characters or real-life people and gives them the opportunity to see their own worth and abilities, and draws from similar experiences and interests in incorporating their own funds of knowledge into their reading experience. This in turn motivates and engages students to want to read and want to comprehend the material they're reading. Allowing students access to reading material that functions as windows allows them to see other perspectives and thus incorporates others' funds of knowledge into their learning experiences. Further, windows and mirrors can function as sliding doors that allow students to learn from their own world experiences and from others that equity and justice are important for everyone to live a happy, healthy, safe, and successful life. I plan to incorporate diverse reading material into my lesson plans as well. Reading about experiences like our own and different from our own is helpful, but being guided by a teacher into discussions and assignments can be very beneficial. I plan to create writing assignments that ask students to compare and contrast their own experiences with the experiences of the characters in the books and reading materials, and I plan to have students share those writing assignments orally. By doing this, I can collect data on students' experiences and interests outside of school and use those funds of knowledge to help guide me in creating further lesson plans that incorporate ideas from my students' funds. For example, one book I plan to read with my students in the future is The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. This book is perfect for my students for a few reasons. Since I teach students who struggle with reading, the very short chapters make reading assignments feel more manageable for my students. Since many of my students are first and second generation Latin Americans, they have the unique opportunity to relate to Cisneros' experiences of growing up as a Latin American. Further, Cisneros' experiences of being a girl and woman in a culture and society that devalues women is still relatable for girls and women in our society today. And lastly, many of my students, I would argue all of them in some way, deal with the issue of trying to understand more than one identity that doesn't always seem to fit in with the various worlds they inhabit. I plan to read The House on Mango Street together as a whole class, allowing students to read aloud if they choose, to listen to audio readings and or to read aloud to the class myself. We will use a variety of methods to read and comprehend the chapters as that fits in with the universal design for learning, giving students a variety of ways to comprehend the readings. I then plan to have my students find one sentence that sticks out to them in each chapter and write why they choose that particular sentence. I will stress that the sentence might stick out to them because they can relate to the idea or because they don't understand the idea. And then we will discuss our sentences together as a class. My hope is that many of my students will draw from their own personal experiences, their own funds of knowledge, and that we can then learn together as a community, and I can use those experiences that present to me for future lessons. I will then tie our discussions into the central theme of the text and show how the individual details of each chapter, as details in which my students are able to relate, unfold, and work to shape the theme, meeting the California standard for determining the theme of the text and how it is shaped by its details. We will orally summarize each chapter together as a class, and work through the unit to understand how Cisneros develops the central theme of her memoir through vignettes, meeting the California standard for determining an objective summary of a text. Thank you.